biblical they want to be. Okay? So we have a friend that's called in. Let's see. Let's bring this in. Give me a second, Max. Hey, Max, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Where are you from, Max?
Great. I am from India.
You live in India right now?
I can see only myself. I can't see.
That's okay. That
Yeah,
might be on your phone. I don't know why that's doing that, but I've never used eCam on a phone.
yeah, okay. Can you see me?
I can see you, yeah.
All right. So, I have questions about existence of God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an atheist.
Let me ask you a
Yeah.
question.
So, basically, what happened?
Before you ask me, just I want to, because people mean different things when they say I'm an atheist. What does that mean when you say I'm an atheist to you?
You there?
Yeah. Did you hear my question?
Yeah, I said, for me, atheism means there's no God.
Okay. So there is no God.
Yeah,
Okay. Perfect. Go
yeah.
ahead and ask your question.
So, the thing is, I've been given like a verbal explanation about God as evidence. Like they have given me logic. They have explained me, like people have explained me, like uh, how is God there? They have given me proofs, verbal proofs. But I believe in empirical evidence. So the thing is, I have two questions. I don't think there's a God because there's no evidence for it. And the other question is, I have an issue with the concept of God, where I think that um, God should not punish us for not worshiping Him. So anywhere and everywhere I talk to people, they say that if you don't worship Jesus, um, you won't go to eternity. You won't go to heaven for eternity. You will go to hell. So that really bothers me. Like if we don't sin, why should we go to hell, right? So that's that. So these are
Did you
two
say
issues.
if
I
we
don't
don't
have
sin?
evidence for it. If we don't sin, but we don't worship, we shouldn't go to hell because we are not
You're right.
sinning. We are following his guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So the logic there is impeccable, right? It's right. It's correct. You said if we don't
Yeah.
sin, why should we go to why should we go to hell? Um, so let's start with that one because I think it's a bit easier than the first one.
hmm
Do you actually think there's a person on this planet who has not sinned?
Yeah. A 2 weeks baby could not sin.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to believe that a 2-week-old baby is going to go to hell.
What? Sorry,
I
I didn't
don't
get you.
think 2-week-old babies are going to go to hell if they die.
Okay. Okay.
It's just the simple concept of understanding that if a person knowingly does something that is wrong, then they are held accountable for the actions that they've just committed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
So
talking about,
maybe a 15 year. So what age does judgment starts from? Like if a 2 weeks
do
old baby won't go to hell. Yeah.
you have children?
I don't.
Okay. I have 4 of them. Okay. And they range
hmm
from, my kids range from 10 years old, so 10, 8, 6, about to be 6, and 3 months old. Um,
Yeah.
there's there's a big difference between those children and when they're aware. And I would say 15 is
hmm
probably too late in
Yeah.
regards to understanding that you are doing wrong. Um,
hmm
at the same time, maybe someone's concept and understanding of like their motivations for doing X, Y, and Z. So I have conversations with my
hmm
5-year-old, and he understands very, very well what he's done is wrong, and he did it because
hmm
he wanted to do it. Now,
Yeah.
as to how much of that is actually rebellion, how much of that is him reacting to things, and how much of that is maybe um, kind of the nature of the sort of person he is, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think that's fine. But I'm asking more of a general question of human adults. Let's just say let's just say it's different for every single person as to when they are aware
Hmm.
and they act out in rebellion and sin. Do you think there's anybody
Yeah.
who's never sinned?
So I would need to know what sins are according to Christianity. So is
Correct.
stealing a
But you're the one
sin?
who made the comment. I think it's unfair for
Yeah.
God to punish us if we don't worship Jesus. Now, I think that's a bad
Uh-huh.
conception, but I'm going to let it go anyways. I'll explain myself. But you said, and I agree with you, by the way, and I think the Bible agrees with you, that
Yeah.
if you don't sin, you deserve to go to heaven.
Yeah.
The question is, what does that mean? Now, here's the way I will put it. Here's the way Jesus put it. And I like the way he put it. He said, look, you've heard it said that you shouldn't murder, but if you've hated someone in your heart, you've committed murder against them. So Jesus
Okay.
considers hate as sin.
It's too harsh.
Why
Hating
is it too
someone couldn't be
harsh?
a sin because you're not. If I hate someone,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not harming him. I have my personal feelings about him. He might be very very bad. He might be a bully. He might be bullying me. I hate him for that. But it doesn't mean that
But
I'm
suppose he's not bullying you. Suppose you're not the victim.
yeah, and still I'm not hurting anyone. I can have personal feelings about anyone, right? If I see
Correct.
some YouTuber, he might not be hurting anyone, but his opinions really bother me, and I start hating him.
Yeah. So here's
That doesn't mean that I'm hurting anyone.
correct. That's fine. What you're missing out in this maybe human to human relationship is the understanding of God being the judge of all things, and that God has a
Mhm.
standard as to the way that say His creation ought to act. Now we're assuming
Mhm.
a bunch of stuff here, but for the sake of our conversation, let's do that, okay? Um,
Yeah.
if God is a part of that human to human relationship, when you say I'm not hurting him, and I say
Mhm.
correct, maybe you're not, but what you are doing is acting out of the norm of the way God intended you to act because He's the creator and He determines what the norm is. Then you're kind of in a dilemma. It's a weird situation you've placed yourself in because it's not just considered to be a sin when you hurt someone. Now let's Jesus has
Mhm.
another standard he brings up in that conversation. He says, "You've heard it said, do not commit adultery, but I say to you, if you lust after someone's wife, that you've committed adultery." Okay? Now, what is wrong?
Isn't that too harsh? Isn't that too harsh?
That's an
Imagine,
opinion.
imagine
So,
that.
so that's fine. You
Yeah.
might think it's harsh. I might think it's harsh.
Yeah.
But that doesn't
Yeah.
matter, right? Like, if God's standards are beyond our level of understanding what is harsh and fair and stuff like that, we can
Yeah.
disagree with them. They can still be the standards. We can think it's too harsh, and they can still be the standards.
Okay.
And
So
I'll put it this way:
with that,
when I come up with rules for my kids, they might think my
yeah.
rules are harsh, but that doesn't
Hmm.
change the fact that they are the rules that I came up
Yeah.
with. That's all I'm
I
talking
get it.
about.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say maybe a 7-year old child sinned a lot, like he hated someone, right? So that's a sin. Why would God? So if and he doesn't worship God, he doesn't believe in God, and he doesn't worship Jesus. Why would God send him to hell for eternity? It doesn't make sense. Like, it's too harsh of a punishment. He was given a life for 7 years
Uh huh.
and then sent to hell for forever. Isn't that unjustified? How can you call that God a just God?
Okay. So can we hang on to that thought because I think it's going to lead us somewhere else. We're
Okay.
just trying to kind of figure out what sin actually is and why it is the way that we think it is. Then we can talk about the peripheral kind of conversations about children and 7-year-olds not knowingly or knowingly doing X, Y, and Z versus 25-year-old doing whatever it is that they're doing. Now,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. Why do you think Jesus would say if you've lusted after a woman, like
Hmm.
that's serious for God? Why would you?
I
Why is
don't
that
know.
an issue? Why would
Like,
that be an
I
issue
don't
for
think there's
Jesus?
anything. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong about lusting for
Hmm.
anyone else's wife. I
Well,
mean,
no, I
if you do
understand you don't
something
believe
about it,
that.
that's wrong.
And I
Yeah.
understand you don't believe that. I'm not asking whether you believe it or not. I'm asking, why do you think Jesus would say something like that is wrong?
I don't know. Maybe because he doesn't want us to um like do anything wrong. Don't get into adulterous relationships. So
Mm,
even so he's trying to stop us at the source, at our thoughts. If we think about it, we end up doing it. So maybe that's the reason.
maybe. Let me come up
Yeah.
with maybe a different sort of way to look at it. I don't think that's necessarily
Hmm.
false. I do think it stops you from committing adultery. When you entertain thoughts, you end up acting out on it. That's
Yeah.
definitely true.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Um, Let me think about it this way. So the Bible teaches that human beings are made in the image of God.
Hmm.
That means there's a distinction and a separation between the sort of things human beings are and the sort of things the rest of the animal world is.
Hmm.
Let's leave that there. And that one of the things that human beings should not do to each other is objectify each other. By that we mean use each other as objects.
Hmm.
Okay, so my suggestion would be something like lusting after anyone, regardless if they're
Hmm.
married or not, is sexual. You are in your mind and heart sexually objectifying that person. And since God
Yeah.
is aware of all things and God loves people, then you are
Hmm.
objectifying people, you're abusing them before
Hmm.
God without the knowledge of someone else. But since
Okay.
God is just, he needs to therefore punish that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Um, you'll have to repeat that. You'll have to repeat that.
So this is a mug, right? It's an object.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, I can take this and just throw it across the room,
Hmm.
say out of anger, or because I just feel like it and want to.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I just had my 3-month-old kid with me.
Yeah.
Suppose I threw my 3-month-old kid like that across the room. What's the difference between those two
Hmm.
things?
Oh, you're hurting your child then.
What's
So
wrong with
definitely
that?
there's a huge issue. Um, I mean, you are hurting someone else for
In
your
your worldview,
emotions,
for
your
why is that wrong?
gratifications. Yeah, because for your gratification, you are hurting someone else. That's my worldview. That
Uh huh.
shouldn't happen. Like,
I just want
yeah,
to
control your
know.
emotions.
I just want to know why it's wrong to hurt someone else.
Um, because they feel pain.
Correct. And that still
Yep.
hasn't told me why it's wrong.
Um, how should I say? I mean, if someone hurts me, it would be bad, right? Uh, how should I explain this? Like, I don't know what answer you are looking for, but I think
I'm
hurting
not.
people
I just
for
want
no
to. Yeah.
reason,
I'm not necessarily
at
looking
least
for
for
a
no
specific
reason.
answer.
Yeah, because I don't think like I think hurting someone for no reason is really bad. Like,
I agree with
I
you.
mean, if there's a reason, yeah,
I agree with you. I think it is wrong to hurt someone for no reason.
yeah,
But
yeah.
my
So if you throw your child,
justification
you'll
is
hurt.
different.
What's your justification?
Well, my justification is that people are made in the image of God and they shouldn't be treated like objects. So there's kind of a greater moral oughtness to it, where you're
But
just
this
stating a
can't be.
fact that people feel
Yeah.
pain. Like, okay, cool.
Uh-huh. So what does that have to do with right and wrong? What does people being created in the image of God have to do with right and wrong? I don't
Because that
understand.
gives us a certain kind of value.
Okay.
So you,
So it's like if you're throwing your baby, you're throwing Jesus. Is that what you're
mm,
trying to say?
no, I'm just saying that we understand value, right? Like we understand how to categorically differentiate valuable things.
Okay.
And,
Oh.
and everything ought to be treated within its own value. Let
Mm-hmm.
me put it this way, and I got this from someone else, so I'll use the same analogy. This is a gentleman that was having a conversation with his 7-year-old kid, and his 7-year-old kid said that, racism is wrong. And he asked the
Yeah.
7-year-old kid, why is racism wrong? And she said, because God says it's wrong. And he said, suppose God doesn't exist. Why would racism be wrong? And
Mm-hmm.
she's 7, so she was having a hard time answering the question. And then he
Yeah.
said, let me give you an analogy. He said, suppose that our house was on fire and he had kind of a crumbled up napkin on his table. And he said, there's only 2 things you can rescue in the house. It was this crumbled up napkin that I just used to wipe my face. You had
Mm-hmm.
that to save, or the painting on the wall. Which one would you save? And the
Painting.
7-year-old said, I'd save the painting. Well, he said, why? She said, because the
Yeah. Oh,
painting is more valuable. He
more
said, okay,
valuable.
great.
Right.
You
Right.
got
Right.
it. He said, now suppose the house was on fire, same exact conditions, except the difference is you had an option to save your sister or the painting. Who would you save? And she said, well, my sister. He said, well, why? He said,
Yeah.
because my sister is more
Yeah.
valuable. He said, great,
Yeah.
here's what we've established philosophically. That equals ought to be treated equally and unequals unequally.
Yeah. Right.
Now that's a standard. Okay, that's a standard of value that he's established. Notice he didn't use anything about God to establish
Yeah.
that. My challenge to
Yeah.
that would be,
Mm-hmm.
why should I obey that? Why should it be the case that I, as a person, actually says, yes, I am going to treat equals equally and unequals unequally?
Okay.
That's my question. Because I think the entire
Yes.
ethical and moral framework comes out of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay. Say that last sentence again.
Our entire moral framework and ideology
No. No.
comes
No.
out of
The
that.
question. The last question. Last question. The
Why
question that you
should
asked it.
I, as a person, treat equals equally and unequals unequally?
I mean, it makes sense. That's why. I mean,
It makes sense.
I would treat you. Yeah. I would treat you with respect because you're a fellow human being, and you are talking to me with respect. That's why I would talk to you respectfully.
Yeah, so the
But I won't
question
talk
is,
to a cup respectfully. I won't talk to a cup with respect.
so Max, the question, we got to be a little careful here. The question's not why Max would do that, right? Like, I
Yeah.
get why you would do it. You seem like a pretty decent fellow.
Mhm.
The question is, why should everybody else do it? And when people don't do it, here's maybe a second level question.
Now I get
When
it.
people don't do it, why should we hold them accountable and punish them?
Yeah. Now I was actually trying to figure out how can you stitch that back to sin and hell. So I was waiting for this point. I was actually waiting for this. So I get it. So you're saying most people are not decent people, or maybe few of them are not decent people, and to make them understand that this is wrong, there's a hell. So we God gives us a list of sins, and if you don't follow them, you go to hell. So it's like trying to make those people understand which are still not getting what God is trying to say. So God could have just given us a list, and if we still sin and we don't go to hell, people will keep doing the bad stuff, right? You're saying this. So hell was created to enforce the list of sin. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, it's not like what you said isn't entirely false, but that's not what I'm saying. Because I think all
Okay.
of us are like those people. And God
Okay.
did give us a list, and we still rebel against
Okay.
the rules. I include
Okay.
myself in that list, right? I
Okay.
include people are sinners. I don't think we can run away from that. We do wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something maybe to think about, and that's sort of related. It was interesting that you said, like hurting people means like it's a wrong thing when somebody feels hurt. We all
Yeah.
realize there's plenty of things we can do in our hearts and our minds to people, objectifying them,
Mm-hmm.
using them for our gratification without their knowledge. And it won't hurt
Mm-hmm.
them at all. They won't even know about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying God is the one that defends the cause of the people that don't know about us hurting them. Because if I use your standard, let's just say I took your
Mm-hmm.
standard of I'm not hurting them. Suppose there's a lady
Yeah.
walking in front of me and I lust after her. I haven't hurt her, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
What's so wrong about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I
She
agree.
doesn't know about I haven't hurt her.
Nothing's wrong about.
But suppose I
Yeah. Nothing's
followed her
wrong about.
home and started taking pictures of her when she was
Oh yeah,
changing and
that's
used the
wrong.
pictures for
Yeah. Yeah.
gravitas.
That's wrong.
Why is it wrong? Let's say
Because
in this experiment, let's say
mhm.
she will never find out about that.
Oh, then it's I don't think then it's wrong. If she'll never find about it. As an
Be
atheist,
careful.
I don't think that's
Okay.
wrong.
Okay.
As an atheist, yeah, I won't do that.
I
But
understand that.
it's
I'm not,
like
again,
if it's
the,
like I'll tell you in a different way. If I found a hard disk and I find pictures of a girl, right?
mm,
And I saw them because I was scrolling through the hard disk. I might destroy that hard disk. I won't give it to anyone else. I might just wipe it off. But for me, having pictures of someone is not a sin if you are not exposing it. You're getting my point. So for as an atheist, I have a different worldview. Like if you're not hurting anyone, and if you have pictures of someone, I don't think that's bad.
yeah, so I understand that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to bring to the table. And
Yeah,
maybe you're being consistent with that.
yeah.
Um,
Although I wouldn't want anyone to take pictures of my sister. I guess I wouldn't
mhm.
want them. But if someone took picture and no one knew about it, if only that guy has those picture, and even I don't know about it, I don't think it's a sin, and he shouldn't go to hell for that.
What if it's a picture of minors?
Oh, that's a different chapter.
Why?
Oh, oh yeah. Now you're making sense. Now you're making yeah. That makes sense.
See, Max,
That changes
here's
the
the thing. Here's
full
what I
story.
believe.
Yeah,
Here's what I believe.
yeah,
I
yeah.
believe that you and I, regardless of whether we believe in
Hmm.
atheism, Christianity, or Hinduism, or Islam, or whatever, I think
Yeah.
human beings, generally speaking, have a sense, internal sense, of what
Hmm.
moral oughts are.
Yeah.
What
Right.
are
Makes
those
sense.
things that are objectively the case? The examples we sort of kind of went through. And some of them are
Yeah.
maybe relative. There are things relative, right? So I'm drinking
Yeah.
ginger honey tea right now, and maybe some people are like, ew, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
And that's that's a sort of tasting. And then there's things that get a bit more serious. They become
Yeah.
of more value, but they're still sort of relative, right? Say
Hmm.
maybe sometimes like political positions on or how we should do things a certain way or not within politics,
Yeah.
right? What's like best
Yeah.
for, let's just say the conversation's over what is best for the poor in our society. And I
Hmm.
think maybe we can have a difference in opinion on how to solve this issue, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But then there's issues that we can't disagree about, like the ones we just mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is because we are all hardwired, I would say, internally, to have a
Yeah.
very kind of a very high sense of moral oughts, what are moral rules and regulations and stuff like that. My
Hmm.
contention is not that atheists don't have this and theists and Christians have this. My contention is
Right.
we all have this. The
Yeah.
question is, how do we justify having it? Where did it come from?
Yeah.
Now, in philosophy, especially in moral philosophy or within ethics, this is
Yeah.
called the communication problem. Now, if you use that in
Hmm.
other fields, you're going to give different answers. But specifically, if you want to look it up and read further into it, within ethics, it's a communication problem. And the idea here is this. Suppose there's no God, and then we have these moral rules that apply to all human beings.
Yeah.
How do human beings access these kind of general rules that exist for everyone?
So this as an atheist, I can say that I get my morals from thinking how would I feel if someone did that to me. So if someone stole from me, I would feel bad. So I wouldn't steal from people. If someone bullied me, I wouldn't bully people, right? I think that if someone bullied me, I would feel bad.
Yeah.
But if I'm in a bad state, if I'm in a bad position and someone helped me, that feels good. So that is how my moral code comes. I would want to help people who need help, right? So my thing is, as an atheist, you choose to be moral, But if you are immoral, like if I still bully it, I know that it's wrong and I still bully him, it's not that after death I'll get any punishment. I can get punishment during my life if I steal something, and if I get caught, I'll go to jail. But let's say I stole a lot of money and no one knows about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a good life. It doesn't mean that after life I'll get any punishment. So as an atheist, law and social reprimand is the punishments that we get.
Yeah.
So yeah, some person can be very bad and not feel guilty about it, and he can have a very good life. So I wanna come back to my original question, because I understand your point of sin. I understand.
Just
I completely get
let
it.
me give it a response and then we'll
Right.
go back to the original one, okay?
Yeah.
Um, because you mentioned the law is law and people being punished and stuff like that. Do you think there are such things as immoral laws?
I
Or
think there
have
could
been?
be, like,
Or have been historically?
yeah, yeah. I think slavery was an immoral law, like
Correct. And
allowing
I would
slaves.
assume you would think that, say, what the British did in India was pretty immoral
Yeah,
in
absolutely,
certain
absolutely. And
circumstances,
what
let's
what
just say.
Hitler
Correct.
did
Like
was
we can give
wrong.
these examples. By the way,
Yeah.
I've, my grandfather and his siblings were on my mom's side were all educated in India in the early 1900s.
Hmm.
So I have history in India, but Armenians, not Indians, Armenians in
Yeah.
India. Um, so I got a connection. I have really good Indian friends. So I get it. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. If we're going to think these laws are immoral, that means there's a higher law we're judging these laws by. Human law, we
I,
can't just
I don't think there are higher laws, but I think collectively we can all agree that what this law is an immoral law.
I would say
But
you run into what's called the
if
reformer's
there's
dilemma.
yeah, so my point is there can only be a higher law if it is enforceable. Like, if there's hell and heaven,
Mm-hmm.
then a higher law can be enforceable. But I don't see any evidence of hell. But my first question, I'm sorry, I want to go back to
That's fine.
that.
Go back to it.
That even yeah, the even if I have like hatred for someone, and I get this is a sin and I don't worship God, right? Even if I have hatred, it doesn't justify it. It doesn't justify a punishment in hell for eternity. Like, you should punish me for maybe 3 years or maybe 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 160 years, but eternity, it doesn't make sense. Like, God is being too harsh, and no punishment should make no punish eternal punishment doesn't make for any sin. There's no sin that we can do which should give us eternal punishment. Yeah.
Again, notice that you're using a kind of a justice system to judge that justice system. So you're saying
But
you're saying it's unjust to judge
mm,
someone for eternity
oh,
for a thing they've done.
yeah,
It is reasonable for
yeah.
someone to tell you, what is this? Where do you get this high moral standard of claiming that God's standards are unjust?
Because no crime on
Uh
earth
huh.
has an unlimited punishment by law. So, and you
Correct.
pick up any law of any country, and humans decide what should be the punishment of each crime. And humans, they themselves think that there shouldn't be an eternal punishment. No
Yeah,
crime has
I
eternal
think that's a fair
punishment.
statement. I really do. But let me throw this thought around. Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm not like hung up on this. Even this doesn't prove whether God exists or not. Like there's people who don't believe that hell is eternal and X, Y, and
Yeah,
Z.
we're not talking about God's existence right
Yeah,
now. We are talking
but
about God's judgment right
here's what I
now.
would say. Um, if I kill one person, what do you think my punishment should be?
I think you should be sentenced to jail for at least 20 years. This is my
What if I kill two
at
people?
least 20 years. Then you should go in jail for maybe till death,
Okay, and
maybe.
if I kill 5 or 10 or 15, or if I kill
Yeah, for
150 and
sure.
300, So the
Yeah,
reason why I come up with
then
that,
in jail for sure. Mm.
the reason why I say that is because the way we kind of the way we do our justice system essentially in a lot of countries, we determine kind of here's the max punishment,
Yeah,
whatever that is. I don't
yeah,
care. I think some
yeah.
of it's actually unfair, but here's the max punishment for a life.
Yeah.
So say it's 30 years or 40 years or 100 years or whatever.
Hmm.
But the understanding there is that the life has a certain kind of limit to it because people are finite, kind of limited entities.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so we go 100 years, and if somebody kills, in America at least, there's people who've been sent to prison. And really, ironically, it's very interesting. People who've been sent to prison for 300 years.
Hmm.
And, you know, obviously they know they're going to die in prison, but there's situations
Hmm.
where, like, there's a fence around their grave. They're still technically in prison in death. Whether that means anything or
Hmm.
not is regardless. The Christian, the historic Christian explanation, and I'm not arguing whether this is the case or not. I'm just trying to give you some information to process through.
Hmm.
The understanding is that God's life is not
Hmm.
finite, right? It's not limited. And any
Hmm.
offense to God is an eternal offense to God.
Okay.
Okay, and so therefore the punishment towards it ought to match the crime. Because when we think about sins, and maybe you and I aren't thinking about sin the same way, but I'm just generally going to explain what Christians mean by this. When we think about sin, sometimes we just think about an act I did.
Hmm.
I think it's more advantageous and biblical to think about
Yeah,
sin as an offense or a rebellion against God.
I get it. I
So it's not
get
just
it.
one thing
I
we
get
did.
it.
It's
So,
telling God, you know, and anything you can think about when it comes to our acts in rebellion against Him.
yeah.
And so the
Okay.
question
So I
becomes,
get it. Hmm.
go ahead.
So I get what you're saying. So any offense to God is uh like punishable with eternity in hell, according to God. I understand that. And the thing is, if I was a parent, right? So we were talking about immoral laws, right? We are able to judge that
Mm-hmm.
even though this law is there, it's immoral, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I as a parent, if I had a son and I said that if you steal something, I will burn your hand, right? And he steals something and I do burn his hand, I'm not a good parent. I have to teach him a lesson, but not with such harsh punishment, right? So the thing is, God is doing what he's doing. He's all powerful. He has the right. It's his world. But don't call him just. At least don't call him just, because I don't think any sin should be given an punishment in eternity, because God is being very unfair that he gives us a life of about 80 years, and then he sums up our sin in those 80 years and gives us the punishment of eternity. Even though you can say that he's God, he can do whatever he wants, I understand, but that still doesn't, like, at least you should be able to talk to humans fairly. You shouldn't say that from one human to another human, you shouldn't say that this is a just God, because the punishment is absolutely very harsh, very harsh. I don't think anyone wants to burn in hell forever and ever. I don't think anyone wants to do that. And either God should change that kind of a punishment. he should
So
he
let's
should like
change.
limit
Let's
the
change
punishment.
that. I agree that
Yeah,
people don't want to burn in hell for eternity, right? When you
yeah,
ask someone, "Hey, would you want this?" Typically, people are going to tell you
yeah,
no. Okay,
yeah.
but suppose that is the place that is reserved for you as a
Hmm.
result of your rebellion that you so want. So here's a question I have: do you think there are people who just want to be rebellious against God? They
Maybe.
don't like the way
But
God runs the world. They want to be rebellious against them. They don't like him very
yeah, I
much.
don't think anyone's rebelling against God. So the people who believe in God follow God, and the people who don't believe in God don't rebel against him, because they don't think there's a God to rebel against. So
Well, that's not necessarily true, but okay.
but who would rebel against God? Because the people who believe in God would worship him, and the people who don't believe, don't even care. So there's no category of people who would actually rebel against God. I don't think anyone goes like, oh, God did this to me. Let me go against him.
No, there's
I
plenty
think
of
I go
people
against
that
God.
actually don't like the way God sets up the
Okay,
world and
let's
what his rules are, and they don't want to submit to it.
yeah. Yeah, there was a time when I actually started hating God and I started cursing God. So you can call that rebel. Yeah, that
Correct.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's plenty of
Yeah.
people who've said things like, I'm an atheist, but
Hmm.
even if I were to be convinced that there's a God, I still wouldn't follow him because I don't like the way he does things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree because if someone gave me proof of God, I would still not want to worship that God
Correct.
because of how he set up this hell system. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But
I
let's
agree
just
with
put
you.
the health system
Yeah.
aside. Let's just say it's a punishment,
Hmm.
right? Like, so the hell kind of conversation, I think, is a maybe later conversation that flows out of
Hmm.
God's nature. And so if let me just run a quick thought experiment for you. If God
Hmm.
existed, right, and God was a
Yeah.
good God, let's just say, right,
Yep.
by nature was
Hmm.
righteous and good and just and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Even if something didn't make sense to you, you
Hmm.
might want to caution on the side of maybe God has a reason for this thing that I don't know about. Like my
Yeah.
finite mind doesn't
I agree.
comprehend and I can't make sense of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes
Right?
sense.
Like
Yeah.
again, there's always
Just like
advantage to
just like your
being a
children,
dad.
your children wouldn't know why you are punishing for what reason, but later on they'll know, yeah, this was the reason. I
Yeah,
understand that.
or they just go in the state. They go, I don't understand this. I might even feel this is unfair to a certain extent.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
I trust my dad loves me and is good and cares about me.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I'm just
I
going to
agree.
trust him, even though I don't have the full answers.
Yeah,
And I think that's a reasonable way to
yeah,
live our lives. I don't think that's unreasonable. We do that all
yeah.
the time.
No, no, no. I agree
We
with
give
you.
people
I
the
agree
benefit
with
of the
you.
doubt, even though we don't know them very well.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and so again, the hell conversation becomes a conversation, I think, after the fact. Or even if you don't want to say hell, if I want to say God's
Yeah.
judgment or punishment becomes a conversation we have after the fact of establishing the sort of thing God is. It also becomes a
Mm-hmm.
conversation after the fact of whether God has actually revealed himself to us or not. So if somebody
Mm-hmm.
actually believes, say, that the Bible is the revelation of God, then they are
Mm-hmm.
kind of bound by that revelation to say, here's the sort of stuff God said about himself to us. And we're going to
Yeah.
trust him in this because it's his revelation. Like, I think that kind of deduces properly. But I think that's, again,
Okay.
a later on conversation we can have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes we put the kind of carriage before the horse, and I would like
Yeah.
to establish it one at a time, and
Yeah.
then see where we land there. Now, look, I'm sure you've heard C.S. Lewis's name thrown around, if you're having these sorts of conversations with people. But there's a very
No.
interesting way C.S. Lewis thinks about this, the hell kind of conversation, and he says essentially when people rebel against God and live in rebellion against God, hell is what
Mm-hmm.
God gives them to live separately from Him for eternity.
Yeah, I've heard about this. I've heard about this.
And I think that's a pretty decent answer. I think if people don't want to follow God and just don't care about Him, want to be
Yeah,
rebellious
like
against Him.
it's like Jesus doesn't want you to be with him. So the next place is hell. So it's not like he wants to punish us. It's like he doesn't want us to go to heaven with him. So that's your place. Hell is your place. So that's a different way of saying yeah, that you're punished in hell.
Yeah,
But
whatever the
God
punishment
no,
means. By the way, I'm not one of those people
yeah.
that believes in a very kind
But
of.
I hope you are getting my point. Like I have an issue with the eternal punishment
I understand your
for
issue.
eternal life.
I understand
So
your issue very
even
well.
like yeah, yeah. So it's not like I don't hate God, right? It's not that I hate God or hate religion, because I think religion is a very good thing. It keeps people in check. What law can't do, it actually religion is what works well when law can't work. So the thing is, religion also gives strength in dark times. So when someone is going through very bad time, religious people still have hope. They struggle through life. And atheists go into depression. They know there's no one to help. There's no one to call. Right. So
Okay.
it's not like I don't have anything against religion or God, but I don't have any evidence for God. I don't think there's any God because I haven't seen him. I don't have any
That's fine.
empirical evidence for him, right?
So yeah,
And I've prayed to God. I've prayed to God. I haven't gotten any response. I've cursed God. I haven't gotten any response. So I know that there's no God.
okay.
And then this the only single issue is with hell. I really that really bothers me whenever someone says that you'll burn in hell forever and ever. That really bothers.
Yeah,
You're
again,
getting my
I
point.
I
These are
think
the
that's a
only two issues.
conversation that
Yeah,
happens. I get why it bothers you. I really understand why it bothers you. I understand why it bothers anyone. I understand why it
yeah,
would bother me, and at times it bothers me. So as a believing
yeah,
Christian, um,
yeah.
here's my thing. You said something about empiricism and like you only believe things that are kind of empirical, and you haven't empirically like.
Not really. But in case of God, I would want an empirical evidence. Only in case of God, and the reason is,
So, uh huh.
with God comes three supernatural claims. Three supernatural claims. A, God created the universe. B, there's hell, and C, there's heaven. So I want if these are all three supernatural claims. So I would want evidence for that, empirical evidence, only in case of God. So you might say, why don't you ask for empirical evidence for other things? It's because it doesn't change my life. But believing in God
Okay.
actually changes my life. It makes me afraid of going to hell afterlife.
Hmm.
So I would need a very good proof for these very, very big supernatural claims.
So let me
You're getting
let
my
me
point?
kind of think through these what you just put here, okay, or what I put what you said. You said
Yeah.
believe in God it gives you three things. One is God created the universe. Number two, hell. Number three, heaven. My response to that would be B and C are the sorts of categorical things that deal with revelation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they are only a matter of conversation
Mm-hmm.
after one establishes that there's a God or not. And there's no way we would even know there's a heaven or hell unless if it wasn't for kind of direct revelation from God. Like we wouldn't be able
Okay.
to come to these conclusions from what Christians generally call natural theology.
Mm-hmm.
You need more information on this subject.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Mm-hmm.
put categorically that into a different category. In regards to
Yeah.
God created the universe, which is a supernatural claim. But before I go
Mm-hmm.
there, right, you're asking for empirical evidence.
Yeah.
Um, and you said the reason why I asked that is because it wouldn't change my life. I know at least one
It
thing
would
that would
change my
change
life.
your
It would
life.
change my life.
Sorry, it would
It would
change your
change
life,
my
and that's
life.
why you need. But
Yeah.
I know at least one other thing other than God's existence that you would need
Yeah.
empirical evidence for that would change your life.
What? Like what?
Empirical evidence for wanting empirical evidence. I'm
Okay, I
not
have to
playing
I have to
by the
think
way,
about
that
it.
would change your life. Because if you don't have empirical evidence for wanting empirical evidence,
Mm-hmm.
then you wouldn't want empirical evidence for God's existence.
I can't even comprehend what you said,
Okay,
basically.
let me slow it down. Chat, and again, we're having a really fun conversation here for people who are actually paying attention to this conversation. If what I just said was like just
Yeah, I'm
really
having fun.
stupid, tell
I'm
me.
having fun.
But here's
Yeah,
the
it's
thing.
it's
So if
it's
I
it's a very,
said,
very decent conversation. Very
okay,
decent conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it is, and I've really enjoyed this. Um,
Yeah.
if I said I need empirical evidence for X,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
then that means I'm coming up with a standard to judge X by.
Yeah. True.
Why can't I ask of my standard the same question? Why is
Oh,
that
okay.
such a why is that such a given, right? And especially when it comes to that one thing, unless somebody says
All right.
I need empirical evidence for everything I believe in, which is impossible, right? And people
No, no,
generally
no.
don't
I get
say
I
that.
get what you're saying.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's I,
Yeah.
why should
So,
we Okay, so what's your empirical
yeah.
evidence for wanting empirical evidence? And
Hmm.
by empirical evidence, I assume you mean things that like you can test in a laboratory and X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. I don't want empirical evidence for Donald Trump, right? And the reason is he's not supernatural. Nothing, no story of Donald Trump is like I saw him flying, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to God, I want empirical evidence because these are all supernatural claims. So, if I see, so it's like if I see a God who can create the universe, who is creating planets in front of me, he's creating life in front of me, I would be in awe of that God. I would I would really respect that God. I would start worshiping that God. You're getting my point.
Mm-hmm.
So if I see that, I would have to respect him. So but because I haven't seen any supernatural thing at all, that is how I classify that I need empirical evidence for God and I don't need empirical evidence for Donald Trump.
Correct. So
So this
let's
is this
make
is
it
how
a
I categorize this.
let's make it a one-to-one correlation. Okay.
Hmm.
You don't need to see anybody creating anything for you to appreciate the creation of that thing or that somebody created it. Correct.
No, I do because I'll
So
tell you why.
if you walk by um, say what's like your favorite place in India? That's like historically your favorite place.
I think you can call Himalayas is a good place, but it's not a historical place. It's a natural beauty.
When was okay? No,
Um,
I mean I don't mean natural beauty. I mean something that human beings created.
oh, man-made. Call it Lotus Temple.
Okay, so the
Lotus
Lotus Temple,
Temple.
you never saw it be built,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you
I
appreciate
know
its
your
beauty.
I know your point. Yeah,
I'm saying you appreciate its beauty. You know that it was
yeah,
built by humans because humans do that sort of stuff,
yeah,
right? And that's what I'm saying. So
yeah,
I think it's reasonable to conclude that even though you're not seeing God in the act of creating
yeah.
in front of you,
I
that
get it.
maybe you
I
can
get
see
it.
the
But
result of creation.
yeah, yeah. No, I get your point. So I'll put it as an example of a car. So if I see a car, I admire its beauty. I know that it has been created by humans. How? We can backtrack. We can go to a factory and see cars being built. We can actually find the evidence that humans are building this car, right? Uh, for Lotus Temple, it has been created as it is not being replicated. It is not being created again. But we see humans create infrastructure, buildings, and everything. So that is good enough evidence that Lotus Temple is also a building and infrastructure, and it has to be created by humans. So I don't doubt it. And there's nothing supernatural in Lotus Temple. But the thing
Yeah,
is, when someone says that you admire Earth, right? You admire Earth, that is a creation. So there has to be a creator. My question is, I haven't seen the factory of planets, and you can't ever see a factory of planets. So how can you be so sure that it is even created? Maybe it was always there. Maybe it was eternal. Maybe the universe was eternal. There was no creation
yeah,
point. There was no starting point. Maybe the universe was always like this.
yeah,
So if you can assume that Jesus and God were uncreated and eternal, why can't you assume that earth and universe is uncreated? There's So that is why I want evidence that
yeah, yeah. But
God is
hang on,
creating. So it's
we've
like it's
asked
like it's like if
questions.
I'll put it this way. If God came down on earth and created life, like maybe created elephant out of nothing, that is good enough proof that like God can create something out of nothing, and then I can believe that God could have created planet earth, could have created universe.
Yeah, now I get it.
You're
I
getting
think
my
you've
point?
said a couple
Yeah.
of things that I think are it's important to respond to. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, in regards to the universe,
Yeah.
there's a couple of very good reasons as to why the universe cannot be eternal. Meaning that if the universe was eternal, this is a
Hmm.
I'm just gonna state this, but you might have to do your reading and research on it. Okay. I don't
Hmm.
have the time to explain it because I got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know you have to go. I
Okay.
know you have to go. I you
Um,
you told me. Yeah.
So one of them is that if the universe was eternal, we would have never reached today. Okay,
Yeah.
because there's something
Mhm.
called it's an impossibility to actually pass an actual infinite amount of events, because you
Yeah.
don't have a starting point. The way you
Mhm.
might want to think
I
about
mean,
this is, the way you might want to think about this is that let's say you have 2 points on a line, and you
yeah.
divide them. Now, like, theoretically, you can
Yeah.
divide that for infinity,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah. I agree.
but suppose
I've heard this argument.
you want to come back, you want to
Yeah.
re-add the addition. So, but if you've divided for eternity, the additions are going to be an infinite amount. You'll never reach
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. They can't be infinite amount of distance in two points or time.
Yeah. This is so that's part of the reason why the universe can't be actually infinite. Another one has to do with kind of um the what's it called, the amount of energy,
Yeah.
specifically when it comes to the second law of thermodynamics and matter decaying. If the universe
Mhm.
has been decaying, and matter
Mhm.
has been decaying, and if it was decaying
Yeah.
for
It can't decay for
eternity,
infinite. It can't. Yeah. It
we
makes
we
sense.
would
Yeah.
have we would have ended a long time ago if that's an actual infinite thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the question
Yeah.
I have, maybe when it comes to thinking about the universe. So I think we judge things based on information, right? So we
Yeah.
look at a matter
Mhm.
and then we determine whether there's information behind that thing, and then maybe we can deduce
Mhm.
whether there's an intelligent mind behind the thing we're looking at.
Yeah.
So, say the Lotus Temple you mentioned probably has a lot of information within it, right?
Yeah.
Geometrical
Mhm.
cuts and various sort of things, the way it's constructed, the reason why it's still around for all this time.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so it's reasonable to deduce that there's intelligence behind it. I think
Yeah.
when we look at the universe, and I don't just mean Earth, I mean the universe. I mean the
Yeah.
Earth. I
Okay.
mean
This is
human
a good point.
DNA.
Yeah. I love this point. I love this point. I love
There's
this
quite
point.
a bit of
You see. Yeah.
information. There's quite a bit of information. There's a ridiculous amount of information,
Yeah.
where I think it's very reasonable to conclude that there's an intelligent
Yeah.
mind
So
that is
yeah. So
behind the
I love this
information we're
point.
looking at.
Yeah. So I'll tell you something. I don't think this is an intelligent design, but I'll give you my reasons in the next call if you will take my
Yeah,
another
yeah, I
call
would love to.
because I love talking to you. I know you have to go right now, so I won't bring new topic. But I want to talk about two things. First is intelligent design, and the second is wouldn't it be just easy for God to just show up and end the debate of atheism and the religious battle, which
Yeah,
religion is true religion? Yeah,
yeah,
so
it
these
would.
I don't want to start these topics today because you have to go, and it was a pleasure talking to you. You're such a decent person. You're such a decent person because I've been on other channels. Uh, they think that winning an argument is insulting other people, so they start insulting atheists, and they think they've won the argument. They've proven God, but you are actually answering all of my questions. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Max.
I would
I
like to come.
try. Look, I'll just tell you something about myself, and I think people who've been on this channel and the chat, who know me, just
Yeah,
know that this is the way I am. I take seriously everything that you take seriously. Unless I realize
yeah,
you're saying stuff that you don't take seriously, then I'm not going to take seriously those matters,
I
because why?
understand. Yeah,
Um, the way I speak to you is the way I speak to my kids. It's the way I speak to my wife. This is the way I build friendships. I think these questions, especially the ones you're asking, are very
yeah,
normal and natural. And I
yeah.
think people should ask that. As a matter of fact, I wish more Christians ask these sorts of questions. I really do.
Yeah.
Because I think then not only would they be prepared to answer the
Yeah,
questions
this is
better.
what I think. Why don't religious people ask these questions to themselves?
Well, the
This
thing
is
is,
what
they
I think.
do. Some
Yeah,
do, but there's definitely a need for more people to ask it. The other thing I'm not
yeah,
interested in is this, and then I think you said it, so I'll rephrase. I'm not interested in beating you in a debate. Okay,
yeah. No,
um,
I can see that. I can see
that's not
that.
my
I can see
heart.
that.
My heart generally
Yeah,
in
yeah,
life is for people to know truth, because that's my heart for
yeah,
myself. I want to know truth.
Yeah.
And so that's partly why I think my conversations with people end up being normal and fun. And whenever we disagree, we say, okay, cool, let's disagree, and then we'll
Yeah.
talk about it in
Yeah.
whatever, a week
So
and 2 weeks.
yeah, I can see you're not trying to like debate me, you're not trying to defeat me, you're trying to make me understand your point of view and hope that I understand your point of view. So I
Yes.
understand that. The thing is, yeah, so I've been recommended this channel. I didn't know about this. So
Okay.
I've been recommended this channel. Yeah. So I really again I thank them who recommended this channel to me.
Yes.
I found people on Truth Cartel. They're also kind people like you. So in this process of talking about God and everything, I'm finding good people like you. So
Praise
I
God.
would like to thank them, yeah, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Max.
I would like to come again if you'll allow me. I would like
Definitely.
to continue this.
Yeah, I would love to. If you're not in our Discord, you might want to jump onto the Discord. That's another way that we connect with people. I try to be active on Discord as much as possible, but sometimes one of the things I've realized, it's maybe a valuable whenever I come across people that want to have these conversations on a certain kind of level. Sometimes I'll get on a
Mhm.
call with them without streaming it and without prying eyes, and people maybe whatever, sometimes that changes the way we think about things. And at times, for very
Mhm.
good reasons, it ought to be, some private things ought to stay private, and some public things should be public. And
Yep.
so I'm available there as well. I try to make myself available on Discord
So
as
what's your
well.
schedule? When would you stream again?
Um, that's a really good question. I'm traveling this week, so I'm gonna be traveling out of the state December on Thursday to Sunday. I'll probably be back on tomorrow. Let me see. What is this? Yeah, my guess would be tomorrow night I will be back on. I don't know how that goes with your time. I'm on the west coast of the United States, so hopefully I can be on around like 8:39 p.m. my time, and then hopefully on Wednesday. And then we'll see. When I'm traveling, there might be opportunities where I have my laptop with me and I can stream. I can't give you a guarantee this week. Okay, so I think it stopped or he froze, but we'll just keep it there. Yeah. Just subscribe, hit the bell notification when I'm going live. It'll be up there, and then you will know that I'm going live. And that way we can continue these conversations. Like I said, folks, for the rest of you guys, we have a Discord. Join the Discord, and then hopefully in the future we can actually add some of these things to our Patreon as well. So, Max, thank you for a very fruitful, I think, friendly, cordial, respectful conversation. I really hope that people who watch my interactions with people like Max learn to have normal, calm conversations with intelligent people and actually present intelligent points and listen to each other and give a response. I always tell people one of the reasons why I do my channel the way I do it is so that I can teach people how to have conversations like this. Like, I want to exemplify that before you, put some pressure on me on how to have normal conversations and not lose my cool and all that. But again, it always helps whenever you're talking to someone like the gentleman we just had, Max. So thank you for that, guys. I do have to go.